Hello and welcome to today's live stream. Super excited today to have my friend Corey Haines joining us. We're going to be talking about a topic that's a little bit different from a lot of the sessions that we host here on our YouTube channel. Usually we are digging into keyword research and content marketing and sort of the nuances of the work that we do. But today we're gonna take a step back. We're going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship and the idea of making the leap, right? So leaving a full-time job and starting your own thing, going freelance, whatever it may be. That's what we're going to cover today. And we're going to talk to Corey, who made this leap himself about 2 years ago. We're going to learn about his experience, what he has learned throughout his process as an entrepreneur and a full-time creator. And some lessons for you if you're looking to make that jump, make that transition, become self-employed in sort of one way or another, what you can be doing now to prepare, what you should be thinking about, and how you can make it work long-term. I think that's another key thing that, we get sort of fixated on the initial jump, but then we got to think a lot about, what's the long-term look like and how do we make this sustainable over the course of our lives or our careers potentially. So again, super excited to jump in. I'm going to bring Corey on in just a moment, but first I want to make my normal quick advertisements here. First of all, drop a comment in the chat for us. Let us know where you're joining from, maybe a little bit about yourself and kind of where you are in terms of moving full-time into being a creator or an entrepreneur. Would love to just learn a little bit more about the folks joining us today on the stream. And we'll also be taking questions. So feel free to throw those into the chat throughout the session, and we'll try to get to those at the end if we have time. Okay, now real quick, please hit like on the video to help other people find it. Also, would love if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. We host live sessions, Q&As, workshops with super smart folks about every 2 weeks on topics ranging from keyword research to content writing to entrepreneurship, running an agency, setting your rates or raising rates as a freelancer or as an agency owner. All kinds of great topics for anyone in the space of content marketing, SEO, or marketing more broadly. And finally, I just want to make one quick mention of our community, Top of the Funnel. Top of the Funnel is a free community focused on content marketing, SEO inbound, and sort of the business of content. So if you are either an in-house marketer, an agency owner, a freelancer, or sort of an aspiring any of the above, please join our community. It's a free Slack channel. Just go to yesoptimist.com/tofu. Again, these workshops and Q&As are always sort of run through the community first and foremost. And then inside, we also have work opportunities, Q&As, exclusive Slack threads and content created by experts, all kinds of awesome stuff inside the community, as well as just a lot of awesome people that you can meet and network with. So again, would love to have you there. Please go ahead and join us, yesoptimist.com/tofu. All right, all of my announcements are now out of the way. Let me go ahead and transition. As I said, today we're talking with Corey Haines. We're going to be learning about his experience becoming a full-time creator and entrepreneur, and some lessons that we can learn from his journey. Corey, hey, how's it going?
What's up, man? Doing great. Thank you.
Good. Glad to hear from you, man. It's been a while. I know we last connected, I think, a couple years ago, kind of around the time that you were making this transition, and prior to kind of where you are now, you were working, I know with Barometrics. Maybe can you just tell us a little bit about your background and kind of the process leading up to your transition and where you're at now?
Yeah, totally. So I've actually had a fairly kind of short career. And I used to be really insecure about that, but now I'm just like, whatever, it is what it is. Startup years are like dog years. It's like 1 year is like 7 years of experience at a big corporate job or doing any other kind of job, because you just learn so much. So actually I went to college and got a degree in marketing, which is kind of rare for a lot of marketers, but I accidentally landed into it, but I still got an official degree in marketing. Didn't help whatsoever, but it managed to help land me a job at a startup here in San Diego, where I was the first marketing hire. Started as the junior marketing intern and then quickly became the marketing manager and then content marketing manager. I spent about 2 years there through their Series A, going from like 1 million ARR to 10 plus. and then became the head of growth at Barometrics and spent almost 2 years there, and did all sorts of things, marketing and sales and even retention related. And then it was September 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, that I left Barometrics and struck out on my own. In between there, started a few, side projects and things here and there. Newsletter, that's kind of where Swipe Files was born. Hey Marketers, the job board, lots of little experiments here and there, tinkering. So I got plugged into Twitter. So it's that kind of whole combination of things, maybe leading up to me leaving Barometrics, that hopefully gives enough context and we can dig into any one of those.
Yeah. Do you feel like you kind of always knew that you were eventually going to try to kind of do your own thing?
Yeah. I knew since I was like 18 or 19, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know what that meant or like what exactly that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it wasn't until maybe like 2 years into going to college, I started listening to a lot of audiobooks, podcasts, just reading in, following interesting people. And then that kind of like helped me understand like what I liked and what I didn't like. I got really into the world of like D2C e-commerce and drop shipping for a bit. And then I actually got more interested in the tools that they were using, because they would talk about tools like Klaviyo and a lot of like OG, Shopify. And then I started building websites for friends, and I got really into the marketing side of things, and also like the marketing technology side of things. So it was actually very serendipitous, because when I joined Cordial, I had literally no idea what they did, and they had so much like jargon on the website that you could ask anyone and no one would be able to tell you what they did. But it just so happened it was the perfect fit, because it ended up that it was a big, basically like enterprise grade email marketing software for large online retailers. And so it was like right at the avenue of what I was interested in. And so it all kind of worked out that way. But yeah, it wasn't until, and then once I got to Cordial, I was like, oh, SaaS, like this is the perfect business. This is what I want to do long term. So now ever since then, I've kind of seen every step in my journey as a step in kind of learning opportunity to prepare me to start my own.
Oh wow, yeah, that's really cool. I feel like that's an interesting thing too. Is that I think there's like that seed of like entrepreneurship that a lot of people feel like. It's maybe like a little bit cliche, but I think there's like you kind of feel like you don't quite fit in like a normal job, and I think like so many people have that like sense or that feeling, and they're not really sure, again, how do I actually like make that happen, or like what steps do I need to take as an individual to move in that direction. So I'm super excited to kind of dig into that and learn a little bit more about like the tactical steps that you took. I mean, I went through this experience myself 6 years ago, so I'm eager to hear how similar or different our sort of experiences were.
Yeah. I'll caveat too, just that I'm like 5 years into my 10-year overnight success. So I'm still in the middle of it. You know what I mean? Like, dude, it's such a messy, windy road. It's not a straight path. It's super, up and around and all sorts of left turns. And you're like, oh, I've seen this tree before. Like, I'm back to this place in my life again. But figuring it out, getting one step closer every day.
It's actually really funny that you mentioned that, because I feel like just recently we must have been like sort of on the same wavelength. I saw a tweet from you where you were talking about how some days you're like you're feeling sort of the worst of it, and you're feeling really down, and the other days you're like full of energy and you're ready to like do kick ass and do a million things. And I think that is so typical of like entrepreneurship, right? Is that like of course everyone tweets about their wins and about the great things that they've done and all the the successes, but behind the scenes it's a lot of up and down. It's a lot of roller coasters. And so I guess for anyone watching, if you're going through that, it's very normal. Because I had tweeted just prior to that, I tweeted a screenshot of our growth of Optimus over the years. And of course, if you look at like sort of the macro trend, it's up and to the right. It looks great. But when you sort of zoom in, you can see, there's months that were up, months that were down. It was very, very much a roller coaster. And you feel that, as a human, you feel that going through those ups and downs.
Definitely roller coaster. It's the perfect analogy. I never understood that until being in it. I was like, oh, what do people mean? Like, I know it's hard, but like the emotional roller coaster is real.
For sure. So going back to kind of your journey, I'd love to just like zoom in. Like, was there a specific moment, you're going through your day, you're working your job, you got some of these side projects going on. Was there sort of a specific moment that you remember where you're like, okay, I'm definitely going to do this. I'm going to make this jump and leave my job and kind of do my own thing?
Yeah, maybe not a specific moment. There were definitely kind of milestones and a series of moments, I would say, where it started to become more real, and the decisions kind of coming together in my head. I'm not a person to like make really quick decisions. In fact, I'm like the exact opposite person. I make decisions very, very slowly and methodically, and it kind of just like has to mull around for a long time. Like you can ask anyone that I like work with professionally, and I always give them a doc. It's like my user manual, and I preface it with a bunch of information just about like who I am, how I like to work. And one of the things I always harp on is like I like to just think everything through and like just give if I'm just like throwing an idea over the fence, it's not like a suggestion. It's just like a hey, let's like debate this and let's think about it. And so the same kind of internal dialogue happens in my head where I'm like, should I go full time? Should I not? Should I freelance? Should I do this? Should I do that? And I'm just like trying to figure out all the different avenues. And so once I feel like I have the right information, then the decision kind of like comes to itself. You know what I mean? It sort of just happens because I'm working it all out in my head like a math equation. But some of those key moments were one, feeling like my time at Barometrics was coming to an end and that I didn't want to go and get another job. And so that was like a little bit of like urgency almost, where I was like, I don't know how much more time I want to spend here. And
was there any specific thing that sort of triggered that feeling for you? You don't have to get too far in the weeds there, but
yeah, I don't mind going to it at all. But I mean, really, it was just a difference in opinion and agreeing with me and Josh, the founder of Barometrics. He's a very public figure, so I don't think he'd mind me saying his name, but really just didn't agree totally on like just the way that we should go about growing Barometrics. And there's a lot of just kind of feeling like I wasn't doing my best work and wasn't a great fit after all. And it's not like we didn't make a lot of great progress, didn't do a lot of great things, but it was just like for what the business needed. And also, little did I know that he was sort of preparing the business to be sold just right after I would leave as well. But he was just feeling like I don't really want to do this very much anymore. I'm not making as much progress as I want to. And also, I don't want to go get another regular job. The second thing was my friend Chris Spags, who I now co-host a podcast with called Default Alive, where we're kind of chronicling our journey on this very windy road of entrepreneurship. And I was telling him, like, here's what I think I want to do and plans. And he was just like, you should go for it. You have to do it. And just 6 months earlier, he had quit his consulting job after a year of consulting after quitting his full-time job. And was like, I know it's scary, but like you gotta just pull the trigger. It's never easy. Like no one's gonna make the decision for you. You just gotta just do it. And then kind of the final kind of stamp or milestone was me talking to my wife about it and telling her that I didn't want to go get another job. And then that opened this whole can of worms of like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I think I want to, go start a SaaS company. I think I want to go start, I want to build out swipe files into a community. I want to X, Y, and Z. I want to do freelance work to kind of pay the bills. That was a really good but hard conversation. There was a lot of just like working out the details and like I don't knows and we'll make it works and tears and laughter and everything in between. It was really hard, I think, for her to hear that because she was used to just like, you just have a job and you just get a paycheck and you live your life, you get your vacation time. And it was me kind of just being like, I don't want that. And that's going to suck for a while, for a long while, actually. But it's going to pay off eventually. And she's like, do you really have to do that? And I was like, no. But for me to feel completely fulfilled, yeah, I know. No, but yes. Ultimately, it was a conversation of like, no, I don't have to. But you don't want to be married to an unhappy person, basically. Someone who's not feeling like they're giving it their all, leaving it out all out in the field, not leaving any chips on the table and just giving everything that I got. And that's what I wanted to do. And so after kind of those three things, then I felt like, all right, I'm doing this. We're making it happen.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that makes a ton of sense because I feel like it has to be I feel like nothing good comes from like sort of making that decision, without some extended period of consideration and really figuring out some of the details at least. But I'd love to know, like, at the time when you actually, say you were made the decision and you put in your notice or whatever, like, how risky did it feel to you at that time, at that point?
Yeah, it felt extremely risky because here's the thing, I'd never done anything like that before. And again, my career's been very short. I'm 27 today. So like really, like how many life experiences like that could I have had? Like none, pretty much. Yeah, I had previous jobs. I worked like 3 jobs all throughout college and like, just like swapped them in between. So like I had been through a whole bunch, but nothing like that where it was like our livelihood depended on it. The other thing to kind of give context to it is that, we're in the middle of the pandemic. My wife just in January 2020 had left her job to go do makeup full time. It's great money, really like great gig where you're doing like you're working for like 7 hours, you make $1,000, you do a few of those a month, and we're set financially for where we want to be. Well, we didn't know that there was a pandemic coming, and so she quits her job, and then now all the weddings are canceled, every event is canceled, no one's even allowed to meet anymore, and she's out of work. So now I'm the only source of income in September of 2020, and now I'm talking about leaving that income and doing something else that probably isn't going to pay as much, and is going to be really swinging and up and down for a while. So yeah, it felt super, super risky. It was very stressful even that month, thinking about like how are we going to pay the bills later. One of the things that kind of like cushioned that, because there was an awkward like in between time where Barometrics had a very strict no consulting kind of clause or like policy, and so it was hard because I couldn't just like build up clientele beforehand. Right. I could, but I wasn't supposed to. Yeah, and legally. Without kind of, and without me like reaching out to companies directly, and which I could have done, and honestly I should have done looking back on it, but I felt very like morally obligated to not do that until after leaving Barometrics. So then it was like the clock starts, the race is on, now I need to go race to find clients, and even then I'm probably not going to bill them until like 30 days after the work is delivered. So there's like this awkward, like 45 to 60 day buffer that I have to make up. So what I did was I ran a sale for one of my courses back then, which is now bundled into Swipe files, called Refactoring Growth. It's now called the 5 Factors of Growth, trying to make it a little bit more self-explanatory. But I basically ran like this big sale where I was like increasing the price, but you can get a discount for one time. And I made like 16 grand from the course that month. And after that, nice. I could breathe. I was like, okay, this is like 2-3 months of runway, with just like living expenses comfortably. Like we're okay. We can make this work. I can at least, I have that time to go find the clients, start billing, or even just like run another sale or find another source of income. Right. So after that, then it didn't feel as risky, and I kind of felt like I can do this. I can make this happen.
Yeah. I feel like that's the key, right? Is that like anytime you're thinking about making this decision, the risk is like 10 out of 10, to start. Like if you just quit your job today and like figure like I'm going to figure it out, it's 10 out of 10. And so I feel like the key here is like finding small things that you can do to bring that risk down to like an acceptable level, right? And for each person, of course, it's going to be different, like depending on your life circumstances and how much money you need to survive and all the things that go into it. Your risk tolerance might be an 8, it might be a 2, and so you've got to figure out what small little things can I do to bring that risk down to a point where it makes sense and I can do it. And I feel, even if it is risky, I feel at least fairly confident that I'll be able to make it work or to figure it out. Right.
Yeah. And the thing too is that I would have done things a lot differently if I was trying to go and start a software company right after Barometrics. I didn't because I just knew like, I've seen thousands of Barometrics accounts, and I've seen the graphs, and we've done all the data studies and reports, and I've seen how long it takes SaaS companies to grow. I know it's a long road, and right. I'm not going to expect an income from a SaaS company within 2-3 months after leaving Barometrics, right. And so that just wasn't an option. If I was if I wanted to do that, I would have started that process way, way earlier, way before
Right.
leaving, because you have to give yourself a much bigger buffer to allow for the growth that you need. And even then, that's also not very direct. You might hit $1, $2, or $3,000 in revenue and then plateau, or you might hit
Yep.
10, 20, 30, and then you plateau. And so there's no guarantees of like, this is just going to keep growing, and by X date, we'll be able to pay ourselves, so that we don't have to go raise another round, or we don't need to find another job, or whatever it is. So it was very intentional for me also choosing this route of building swipe files and consulting
Mm-hmm.
as another stepping stone before starting a SaaS company.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That was
Yeah,
another part of the process of de-risking, is what I'm trying to get at too.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that's having that game plan is so critical. So I want to just go back and sort of maybe put a point on some of the specific steps that you took to prepare. So I know you mentioned, one thing that you did was you offered that sale. You had sort of you sort of initiated a windfall, I guess, to have a little bit of a financial buffer, put some cash in the bank,
Created my own
basically,
windfall.
Yeah. Did you have like a specific goal in mind there? Like, I need X months of runway or of living expenses in savings?
Yeah. I mean, really, I'll tell you, like, we, as soon as I left Barometrics, we had like $5,000 in our like savings account. That was it. So I was like, well, we burn about $5,000 a month in just like living expenses. San Diego is a high cost of living city. We're living very frugally, believe it or not. Even on $5,000 does not go very far. So I was like, I need to make at least $5,000 from this sale. We made more than that, which was great. But yeah, that was going into it. I was like, I at least just need to be able to pay for this month's living expenses, so I don't have to burn through our savings, which is, about 1 month, which even then is not very much, not enough. We have far more than that now, because I'm like hyper conservative, and I'm like scared to death that, something else will happen. But I at least now have that like peace of mind of like, all right, we have this, we have, 6 months plus of living expenses just plowed away, so that if God forbid we need to use it, we can comfortably, and we give ourselves that buffer.
Yep. And then the other thing that you mentioned was that you were sort of game planning out, moving into consulting, which I'm guessing was sort of like your main source of income, moving straight out of your full-time role. And so that was another step that you were taking there, was sort of, you weren't able to kind of put the wheels in motion quite yet, but you were sort of game planning out how you were going to move into that job.
Yeah. And I'm glad that I did that, because I had a couple things that I thought were going to work out, like right after I had started, like basically once I knew like, okay, I'm kind of out the door, halfway out the door, I'm going to start planting these seeds. And I had 2 leads that were really, really promising. One was just like a pretty decent writing gig, doing content marketing for a company that was, they were basically paying like a very high rate per article on something that I had good expertise on. I thought, okay, that can at least pay our bills. And then I was also creating this kind of like package where I was going to do like a growth marketing audit for SaaS companies. And if I could do like 1 or 2 of those a month and have like a wait list, and I could just have like a steady stream of very like repeatable, easy, systemized, work, where I'm just like not really doing the work. I'm just doing a lot of analysis, asking questions, running surveys, going through funnels, looking through metrics, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of stuff that I was used to doing for Barometrics customers anyways, but I was just kind of packaging up. No one ever bought the audit for whatever reason. I never really marketed it all that much, but like that just never became a thing. Yeah. And I ended up writing a couple of the articles, and then it just completely fell through. And they were like, yeah, we want to go a different direction. We're going to hire this agency that actually didn't even end up working out. It was like a whole thing. There was turnover with the person I was working with. And so I was really like, okay, I need to find a different source. It was very serendipitous. I'm super glad that right after that I found, or rather Derek found me working with SavvyCal, and that's been like my mainstay client, and it's been awesome to work with. Basically be able to pay the bills with like a third to quarter time, full-time work. And then I had a couple others immediately after leaving Barometrics that were similar but different work, or different types of companies, that I ended up just letting go because it was too much work. Like I just way too much on my plate. I kind of like was desperate, right? And then you take anything you can get, and then you have too much, and so then you let go of the ones that you don't want to, and you keep like the best ones. And so since then, I've just kept SavvyCal. Oh, one other thing I did too was I was doing a lot of, so the audit didn't work out, but I was doing basically like a productized service of coaching and mentoring. And so you
Mm,
could subscribe for like 200 to 400 to 800 bucks a month, depending on how much time you want with me, to just like hop on a regular, like weekly, biweekly, or monthly call, and then we'll chat growth marketing. I'll be like your brain,
mm.
and help you work through any problem that you're on. And that was actually really good and very lucrative. And I think at one point I had up to 12 clients at one time, and they all
Wow.
stayed for a good amount of time, but it just got to be exhausting. And I figured that I'm not a coach.
Yeah.
and and it takes a very specific type of person and skill set. You have to be extroverted, otherwise you burn out. And there are other things, you have to be very interpersonal, where you love helping people figure out the solutions to problems themselves, rather than just telling them exactly what to do or
Right.
when to do it yourself. And I'm the latter camp, where I'm like, this is what you do, or just let me do it. Not
Yeah.
like,
Just let me do it.
let me,
It'll be way easier.
yeah, not like, let me hold your hand and like walk you through the process. And it just got like, I can't stand repetitive, monotonous work or advice. I want to
Mm,
like package it up, or like
mhm.
productize it in some way, automate it, delegate it. I just have to get it off my plate. I want to do the more kind of creative stuff. So that worked well, but it was just for a season.
I feel like there's a couple of really great insights here from the story. So one is, I think the one of the key things that you did as sort of that, again, going back to the idea of like de-risking, is you plant a lot of seeds, right? You got a bunch of ideas of ways that you can make money or whatever you
Yeah.
got to do to make the numbers work, right? And obviously not all of them are going to pan out. And you experienced that, right? Like stuff that you
hmm
thought was a sure thing turns out to not be, but that's okay because you've got these other three things in your back pocket that you can pull out or pursue, which I think is a huge thing there. The other thing, though, I think is really important is the idea of understanding what you want to do. How do you want to spend your time? Because the other end of this that I feel like you don't see this as often, but it does happen, is that like some people will leave their full-time job, go into some kind of entrepreneurship or self-employment, and then realize they hate it. They don't
hmm
actually, they
Yeah.
actually would prefer to have a job, right? Because they haven't taken that time to really understand themselves. And like you said, am I extroverted? Do I want to work with people? Do I want to work solo? Do I want to, how do you want to structure your day? And I feel like that's really the ultimate unlock that you get with self-employment, is that you get to dictate all of those factors, but you have to first know what you want and what you like, and
hmm
what makes the most sense for you, so that you can it'll be long term, it'll be sustainable long term.
Yeah.
um,
That's the catch 22 also, is like, sometimes the thing that works isn't the thing that you want it to work. And
True.
then you have a
Yeah.
hard decision of like, do I pivot? Do I change this and let go of this thing that's working in order to do
Mhm.
something else because that's what I actually want to do? That's where my heart is. Or you just kind of grind it out and you do the thing that works, even though that's not what you envisioned originally.
Mhm.
So yeah, I had to do that a couple times, where I was like, okay, I thought I'm gonna like have this client who I'm just like writing for and it's lucrative and that's like my main client. Nope, that doesn't work out. Okay, I'm gonna do audits. Nope, that doesn't work out. Okay, I'm gonna do coaching and mentoring. Oh, that's working, but I don't like it. I hate it. I want to let go of that. I never thought that I would just do like, fractional CMO work basically for SaaS companies, or that
Mhm.
that would be kind of the fit, or that would work out so well with just having one. I thought that would basically just be giving myself a job, which I am to a certain degree, because I'm doing a lot of the same things that I was, but on much different terms, much less time, and I have
Mhm.
more control, because I'm not being hired to go do all the things and do everything. I'm choosing only the most high leverage, high skill things that I have high competence in, and that the client is saying, "Hey, what should we do?" Not like, "Go do this." So I get to be the person that's like, "Here's what I think we should do," and they're like, "Great, have at it. Go do it." And so I get to I still get to keep that autonomy.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, I think one other thing, and you sort of mentioned this. I know this has been really critical for me, is like, again, the idea of de-risking. Uh, I've always thought of like having like sort of like a minimum viable like skill, kind of thing. So like for me, my background is writing. And so, in sort of the darkest or most difficult days of building a business, like I always think to myself, like, okay, if for some reason this really went sideways or things really got bad, like I could always go hustle for work and like
Hmm.
make a living doing, being a writer or like whatever, that might not be long-term what I want to do, but at least I can pay my bills. At least I can sort of get over this hump or this difficult period or whatever. And so I feel like that's another key thing. Like if you're thinking about making that leap, is like build some foundation there, build yourself like a safety net. Again,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be glamorous. It doesn't have to be super high paying. I mean, there's all kinds of, you can do spreadsheet work for $25 an hour on the internet or whatever, like whatever you got to do, have some sort of a safety net there so that, and that will give you at least some feeling of safety. I think that, if things really go sideways, I've got some I can fall back on.
Yeah. Well, you know what honestly was the saving grace was Twitter, to be honest. Because Twitter is where basically all my network is. I had built an audience. I think when I had left Barometrics, I maybe had about 3,000 followers ish, which is still a decent amount of people. And it was sort of my announcement that I was leaving Barometrics and striking out my own. I wrote this blog post called Making the Leap that drummed up all this interest and basically let people know like, oh, I'm open for work. And so people are throwing me opportunities left and right and asking, giving me job offers even and are like, hey, do you want to join over here or do this for us? Or is this a good fit for you? But like having that Twitter audience and network, especially just people that know me, that I know, who I've worked with, who's worked with me in the past, like having that base and that audience was absolutely huge. You have to think about it. You have to think about yourself as the business. And in the same way that you wouldn't, build a piece of software and then like you publish the website and just like wait for people to show up. Like, of course, no one's going to show up. Of course, it's going to be crickets. Like it's the whole build it and they will come fallacy. And people do that too when they're striking out their own to freelance or to start an agency or to, be a consultant or do coaching or do mentoring, whatever it is. Like they just think because they make themselves available to do it, then people will start finding it. Like, no, you have to do the work of building the audience, building the network, putting yourself out there, reminding people, having the frequency and the communication out there that lets people know that this is something that you're doing. And then that they should, right? And there's a call to action, right? And you're building yourself a funnel for these types of opportunity for that deal flow. And so I knew that going into it, but I didn't know just how important it was until I literally saw like my DMs explode. And every other week there's an email of someone making an intro and saying, hey, I'd love to hop on a call with you. Can you hop on a call with me every other week and I'll pay you? Things like that. It just never would have happened without that base of having a following and a network. And I use those words very distinctly too, because I think they're different. You don't have to have a huge audience if you have a really strong, close network of people who can refer you deals, make the right connections, make the right intros, and vice versa. You don't have to have a huge network directly if you have a big audience that you can capitalize on and send out an email, write a tweet thread, just put yourself out there in some way on some platform. If you have both, you give yourself
really
even, then you're really set, right? Then you can give yourself a lot more kudos and a pat on the back, a lot more confidence, a lot more de-risked, right? But they are different, equally important. You can have either, but both is optimal.
Yeah. Was that something that you did intentionally as sort of a step to prepare for this transition, was to kind of build up your audience or sort of shore up your network or anything like that?
No, not intentionally. But again, like I think I was doing it subconsciously because I just knew like this is an important thing and something that I wanted to do and it'll just make my life easier. But I definitely, again, I underestimated how important it would be. And just how many people were like, oh yeah, I've been following you on Twitter for years. Or like, oh yeah, I followed your work at Barometrics really closely. I still hear that to this, like literally, I was on a call with a SwipeWell customer, a new customer, the other day, which is my latest SaaS project. And they're like, man, I can't remember when I first started following you. I think it was when Josh announced that you started at Barometrics. I was like, oh my gosh, that was 4 years ago. And that was like, some random tweet. Like you just have no idea how much it actually means and how much good it can bring to your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love too the distinction that you made there, because I feel like for some folks, the idea, I think you've got something like almost like 20,000 followers or something on Twitter right now. So some people might look at that and be like, oh, well, I'm not there. I'm not whatever. But I love the distinction that you made between like an audience and a network, because like, yes, it does take a lot of time and energy and intention to really build an audience like that. But to build a network, it also takes time and energy and intention, but it's a totally different game, right? Like it's not, you don't have to be a marketing genius to reach out to people and build a network and connect with people and make those connections. And so if you are somebody who doesn't have an audience, or you're not, you are sort of starting from zero on the internet or whatever, like you can still de-risk by building the network, even if it's in private. It doesn't have to be in public.
I would even say that building a network is easier, far easier than building an audience, because it just comes down to, it's the whole idea of your luck surface area. And it's this kind of like diagram. I don't know if you've seen it before, but it's like the y-axis going vertical is doing great work, and then like the x-axis is telling people about that great work. And so you can tell people about that great work through your network, one-on-one. You can just basically show your clients, or work you're doing pro bono, or work you're doing even just as like a kind of creative project to build your portfolio. And as long as you're telling people about it, then you're building a network, right? A network is just like a one-to-one audience, right? Of course, that can translate into an audience just as well. But when if you're doing great work and you're telling no one about it, your luck surface area is it's basically zero, right? If you're not doing great work and you're telling a lot of people about how great you are, it's going to come back to bite you. But if you're doing great work, just tell people about it, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's more publicly through an audience. But the key, right, that's how you build your luck surface area. That's how all these opportunities come to you, is if you are doing the work of telling people about what you're doing.
Love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, that's been super helpful to kind of talk through some of those specific actions that folks can take. I'd love to know, looking back now, is there anything that you feel like you did wrong, or you didn't do that you wish you did, in sort of preparation for making that jump?
Man, something I did wrong. This isn't directly related to freelancing, but I think that my kind of approach to entrepreneurship has been following this kind of like stair stepper framework by Rob Walling of Startups for the Rest of Us. And basically the whole idea is like, a lot of people try to jump straight to the top of the stairs, which is like the highest but also most rewarding types of business, like a SaaS company or a social media app or a two-sided marketplace, or like a biotech startup, or like all these very like sophisticated, high capital, high labor types of companies. And it's like, you don't want to start there, because you're just going to crash and burn if you try to make that jump too quickly and too far. So you want to stair step. You want to start with something really simple, maybe like freelancing, maybe like, just being like a writer for hire, hired gun in some capacity. And then you want to go to maybe some sort of productized service where it's coaching, mentoring, or you have sort of everything's packaged in some way. An agency of some sort. And then you can jump to something like a plugin type of software, or e-commerce where you're drop shipping, and then you gradually level yourself up. So one of the things I wanted to do was, in parallel with freelancing, I wanted to also start Swipe Files and really build that into a membership community where I bundle the courses, and I have a forum, and I have live office hours. And one of the things that really set me back a while was, one, trying to monetize too quickly and too early, because I'm scrambling just to find money and try to make the graph go up and to the right so that I can feel more comfortable financially. But two was definitely a lot of the like shiny object syndrome of just what was hot at that time. So within the span of me like being at Baremetrics and then like starting Swipe Files, there was like all these fads that came in. It was like, paid newsletters are like the big fad right now. And I was like, they're doing Substack. And so I'm like, maybe I should turn this into a paid newsletter. And then like I tried that, and that's how Swipe Files started. But then I was like, I don't like this. And also I feel like I'm trying to fit a square peg into a round hole kind of thing. It's like, wasn't exactly working the way that it should. And then the next big thing was like communities. And I'm like, oh, okay, I need to start like this thing over here. And then like it was just one fad after another that I kept trying to chase after. And then I saw these people really take off building an audience after leaving places like Morning Brew and The Hustle. And I'm watching people like, Trung go from like 1,000 to 100,000 followers overnight. And Alex Garcia going from like literally 0 to 50,000 followers in like a week. I'm like, what the hell am I doing wrong? Like, this sucks. I'm just going to go try to do what they're doing. And then I'm like trying to go through and build my Twitter. And at the end of the day, you have to really think about, what do you want? Mm-hmm. What do your customers want? What does your audience want from you? And instead of trying to like make a cool thing in a cool way, like, oh, this is a paid newsletter, or this is a community, or this is a Patreon or a Substack or whatever it is. It's like, what does your audience really want from you? And at the end of the day, what people wanted from me was SaaS marketing content and courses, whether that's community, whether it's help. I was trying to run away from like my SaaS marketing expertise and just be like a marketing guy, have like the marketing guy Twitter bio. And that just wasn't me, and it wasn't what people wanted. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. That's totally fine. I love Alex Garcia to death. He's doing an amazing job. That's totally for him. That's not me. I'm not going to try to like copy that just because I'm jealous of his success. And that's just like a bullet that I have to bite, Yep. And then once I did, oh my gosh, my life got so much easier. It was like, Swipe Files is taking off. It's making a lot more sense. The newsletter is growing, membership's growing, revenue is like absolutely going, parabolic. Like, it's all just making sense and working out just because I stopped chasing the fads and I stopped trying to be someone that I wasn't and make Swipe Files my thing into something that it wasn't ever supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So that's the big kind of like mistake that comes to mind. It's just like trying to follow the fads and like do something just because someone else seems to have made it work.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great insight. And I feel like it goes both ways, right? So like on the one hand, you can get caught up in what's working for everyone else and sort of chasing the fads, as you said, and being, frankly jealous, right? The FOMO of looking at Twitter and being like, oh my God, why is this guy, this guy's blowing up and I've still got 3,000 followers or whatever. I definitely feel that. And then the other thing that I have experienced, and I think you sort of mentioned this too, is like thinking about what it is you really want to do and how you want to spend your time. Because like, for instance, you mentioned coaching. Like, I've been in that same boat where I've had many people reach out to me over the years and be like, hey, I'm starting an agency. Would you be a coach, or do you want, will you consult with me, or like whatever? And I'm just like, I don't want to spend my time doing that. Like, that's not how. So you have to be able to say no to those other things too. And again, like you said, you say no on this side, you say no on that side, and that sort of gives you a path of like, okay, which direction do I actually want to go, and what's going to make me happy and also successful, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Even now, like sometimes I'll get people, DMing me and asking me a lot about building Swipe Files and like, hey, I'm starting a paid community, or like I'm starting a course, or I'm, trying to do X, Y, and Z that's closely related to Swipe Files. And I'm like, I'll give like a really short kind of DM response, but at the end of the day, I want to be talking about SaaS marketing, not how to build a paid membership site. You know what I mean? Like, that's not my passion, my expertise. Like, I've made it work despite like a bunch of things that I've done wrong and just like not in my wheelhouse. So like, don't ask me about that. Ask me about SaaS marketing. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of distractions, a lot of things that come at you of like, people just, they think they want something out of you, and you think that thing is good, but at the end of the day, it's probably not a great fit for how you should be spending your time, or it might even be like a great offer. Someone might think like, oh yeah, I'll pay you to, be on these calls with me or teach me. But then like after 3 months, they might be like, no, never mind. And if you had staked your whole thing like, okay, this is what I'm doing now, and then it turns out after 3 months, everyone churns, then like you would have regretted doing that, right? So you have to be very careful about what you choose to invest in and spend your time.
For sure. Yeah. I think it's all about protecting your time, right? Like that's the key thing. I think that's the biggest difference between having a job and not having a job, is that you own your time, but you're also responsible for your time. Like, nobody else is telling you how to fill these hours in the day. And so you've got to be the one to make those difficult decisions, and you've got to do that analysis. You've got to be able to say, is this sort of the optimal use of these hours? Because you only have so many hours that you're going to be able to spend every day, and you have to be able to make those decisions. Yeah.
And speaking of time, one of the other mistakes and big learnings was, once you leave your job, then you're a free agent, right? It's like, okay, well, how do I spend my time now? I can do whatever I want. I can take meetings with whoever I want. And, so I left in September. From like September to through December, I basically made no progress on anything related to like building a business. I finally figured out like my finances and consulting clients and got that running. But like on Swipe Files and on like my entrepreneurial journey beyond that, I was spending all my time just like meeting with people on Zoom, which was great for like building my network and just catching up with friends. But then it would turn into like we're meeting every other week and we keep chatting, and like then I have all these people who are just like, hey, we'd love to hop on a call. And I'm like, why are we meeting? But like, I'll just take this call anyways. I'm responding to emails, and I end up spending all my time responding to emails, responding to DMs, hopping on calls with people, and not actually doing any real work for myself.
Oh, yeah.
So after that, I was like, what the heck am I doing with myself? Like, this sucks. I'd rather just have a job again because I don't feel productive or creative at all. And so I made a really strict rule. I'm only taking meetings on Wednesdays. I'm only doing meetings if it's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, we can chat over email, we can chat over DM, we can chat over Zip Message, which I'm a huge fan of. It's like a Loom alternative, but it's all threaded on one page. And that was huge, like hugely productive, because then it was like someone wants to meet and they're like, oh, I only see a time for 3 weeks out. I'm like, yeah, sorry. Like, okay, cool. Like, we'll just catch up another time. Sweet. Like, we don't have to meet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll take that time gladly back. I'm batching it all together. So like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I am doing deep work. I'm doing important work, high leverage. You know what Kai K of Rad Reads would call $10,000 hour, $10,000 an hour work, right? It's high skill, high leverage, only work that you can do, and that really moves the needle. And I stopped responding to email too. Like, dude, my inbox is on fire. Like it's a burning piece of garbage. What's the analogy? It's a burning dumpster, right? Or something
dumpster
like that.
fire. Yeah. Dumpster fire.
Dumpster fire. Thank you. Butchering it. It's a dumpster fire. I am horrible at responding to people. And I literally have a PS in my email now that says, PS, I'm probably either never going to respond to this, or I'm going to respond really, really late, because that's the only way I've found to make myself productive as a solopreneur. That's just the reality of it. Like, it sucks, but I don't spend time on email. I don't spend time on meetings anymore. And that's how I've managed to actually do real work. And so that's been a huge learning. Like,
yeah,
it's very easy once you leave your job just to feel you can fill your time with a infinite number of things, but only a really, really small number are actually going to move the needle and be important to your journey.
Yeah, I really want to dig into that and sort of what you have found to be the I guess the highest leverage, or as you said, like the 10K work. And shout out to the Rad Reads team over there. But yeah, so I think we all sort of learned some of that same stuff. Like the low leverage stuff seems important, and especially if you're coming from a full-time job, right? Emails and Slacks and Twitter.
Yeah,
and
it's like
whatever.
Be responsive and be on it all the time. Inbox zero.
And then you realize quickly that that's very low leverage, unimportant work in sort of the grand scheme. So what are some of the things that you've identified, maybe that you're working on right now, or that you see as sort of the highest leverage activities?
A lot of things. I mean, when I'm thinking about like Swipe Files, Swipe Well, any other project that I have in the works, even SavvyCal stuff. Number one, I'm being like brutally honest with myself about how important is this thing. I kind of used to be at the thought of like, let's just do anything and everything, because you never know kind of where you're going to strike gold. But I've learned that that's not really the best. Like you don't have to throw spaghetti at the wall and just see what sticks. Like you can be a lot more, you can do more spear fishing, right? Where you just, okay, if I do this thing, it's going to have X results. It's going to be more promising. I can forget about all the other craft and ideas. And although it might be like fun to think about doing those things and having done them, you're just not going to get to the actually really important stuff. So number one, be brutally honest about what's actually going to move the needle and what are those things. And then like crank, like literally block out the time in your calendar, be like, this is the thing I'm working on for the next 4 hours, and then just do it. That's kind of the meme, do it.
Yeah.
And that's hard, but like, yeah, I spend a lot of time on my couch watching like Survivor in the background, just cranking away at something. I'm writing copy. For Swipewell right now, we're working on this programmatic SEO play where we're generating a lot of content from my own account, swiping I have 4,000 marketing examples now that I'm curating and categorizing and organizing in some way. And I've just been doing that for 4 hours a day, every day for the last 3 weeks, because that's just what it takes. That's the 10,000 hour work. It doesn't sound like 10,000 hour work, but it is, because at the end of it, we're going to have this massive database. We're going to be able to launch on Product Hunt. We're going to be able to generate a lot of traffic through SEO, and we're going to give a lot of content for our users to use, which then becomes a value metric and something that makes them get more value out of our product and thus pay for it. So it's things like that, right? With Swipe Files, I wrote a couple blog posts on how to launch on Product Hunt, how to create a marketing budget, and how to set goals as a marketer. And those brought a lot of people in to the Swipe Files community. Just the other day, I was working on the Swipe Files community onboarding stuff. I'm just sat down. It's on my list. I work on it for 2 hours. I knock it out. Now it's done. Those are just a few examples. I don't know how else to describe it.
Would you say most of your sort of high leverage work at this point is sort of writing or content creation of some sort?
Yeah, a lot of it is copywriting and content creation. That's also just what's in my wheelhouse personally.
Yep.
My co-founder Connor for Swipewell, he's a developer, amazing product builder. All day long, he's just doing Swipewell product stuff, just building features, fixing bugs, things like that. So we're very much in our lanes. Again, there probably could be other things that I could be doing, but then we just wouldn't move as fast or make as much progress on kind of the big things now, where, yeah, I could work on 3 things concurrently, and in 9 months, we could have those three things done and then start to reap the results. Or I could do one thing every 3 months, but then I give myself the time to let those things compound with their rewards later on. So I'm trying to get to the win, to the result, to the thing, to the launch as fast as possible for every one of these, or I'm not just letting it drag on. I love just clicking done in Notion and being that is out of my brain now. It's not.
I was just going to say, again, going back to the idea of you own your time, but you also are responsible for your time. I feel that's such a big thing, is managing your own energy, and you've got to create your own milestones to say all right, I checked this box, that feels good. Now I have energy to do the next thing. But if you've got, like you said, if you've got 3 things that you're juggling all at once and it's going to take a year to get them all done, you burn out a lot of times. You run out of steam before you finish any of them.
Yeah, I felt really burned out actually in last summer, really, is when it was, because I was just working on a lot of things that were all juggling in the air at the same time. I'm sorry, can you hear this leaf blower?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, I'll close my window if it comes on again. I was feeling really burned out last summer because I was just doing this big juggling act, and I wasn't as focused on certain tasks at a time. I was just kind of chipping away at 10 things all at once. And it just kills your energy. You don't feel like you're making that progress. And you need the feeling of progress to keep going and making progress, which is really weird to think about, right? But if you're never feeling like you're going to reach the end of that thing, you burn out super, super quick. I even noticed it, one of the really big task management piece of advice that has been really helpful for me is anything that is on your to-do list that looks kind of big, break it down into much smaller tasks, because then you make those smaller tasks, you check that off. And now when you're looking at that thing, you're not thinking rewrite landing page, which is a big task, right? It's split it out into all right, what's our new positioning? What should be in this landing page? What are the curate examples for landing pages that you like? Do research in your analytics on where people are on the heat map. You break it down into all those little things, and then you can chip away and feel all right, even if I'm not checking the big thing off within a day, I'm checking it off in a week, because each day I've done all the things necessary instead of just letting it mull over and not really making a lot of progress on it.
Yeah. 10% of 10 is more than 0% of 100, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I feel you on that one. Awesome. Cool, man. Well, that's super, super helpful to kind of get the sense of what you've gone through. I mean, I feel yeah, I think that's just so much of it that people maybe don't expect is the self-management part of it really is different, is a surprise. But I did want to zoom in on one thing that you mentioned, 'cause I think this is a very helpful insight for folks, is that like a lot of time, I think I'm of the opinion that your most valuable work, especially when you start out, is like whatever is your expertise. So like you mentioned, like writing or like content creation, which
Yeah.
again is also my background. Like I think about the early days of Optimist starting out, like I spent multiple days a week just like writing content for the Optimist site, right? Like just creating content that we could use to then market and build the business. And
Mm-hmm.
now that has evolved because I'm at a different stage of the business where we don't, we're not sort of starting from zero, right? Like we're not building the thing. So I can spend my time on other higher leverage items like hiring people or like, delegating some of the work that needs to be done. But I think it all comes back down to like, what is that like core competency that you have? And then how can you leverage that? And then the other point that you mentioned before is like, don't get distracted from that.
Yeah.
Because you can see everyone else doing a million other things and you're like, oh, well, maybe I should try that, or maybe I should try this, or maybe I should do that. And you stray from that core competency. And as you said, you sort of end up feeling very unproductive, which leads to burnout, which leads to all kinds of problems. And that's, I think, where a lot of people get sort of stuck in that rut.
Yeah. Like it's totally, in fact, it's better to simplify and to really focus in, figure out like what are the things that give you energy and give you joy, and what are the superpowers? Like what do people always refer you to or tell you you're the best at? What are the things that you feel like no one else can do as well as you? Really focus in on those things. And again, it's okay if that's not like the most glamorous thing,
Right.
but as long as you enjoy it and as long as it's financially rewarding, like do that thing as much as you can. Scale it up. Like don't be afraid to just dig into that work. One of the books I think that kind of changed my perspective on this a little bit was Seth Godin's Practice book. I think it's called something to do with practice. It's something The Practice. Oh, it's called The Practice. And it doesn't talk about a whole bunch. It didn't have like a really splashy launch or anything. He didn't really even do like a podcast tour for it. But it's just a lot of like the same stuff about learning to fall in love with the practice of whatever your core competency is and the work that you like doing, and treating it like the practice, which is it's something that you are fine tuning and you're pushing yourself to be better. And it's something that you're proud of and that you're showcasing almost as art. It's the practice of this is what I do. And I am a professional. I am a practitioner of SaaS marketing, for example. After that, I thought like, I never thought about it this way, but I want to be the best SaaS marketer in the world. And I want to like really dig into this, not in like a cheesy way. Like I don't actually want to be like the best SaaS marketer in the world and have like that title in my Twitter bio, but like I want to be the best that I possibly can for SaaS companies to market them and help them get customers. Like that is the thing that I really love. It has like the ikigai kind of intersection of all the right things of what do I care about? What does the world need? What do people pay me for? What do I enjoy doing? Whatever the intersection is. But treat that like whatever the intersection is, that is your practice. And then don't stray away from it. Like just fall in love with the practice and learn to devote yourself to it daily.
Love that, man. Love that. Yeah. I think simplify, find the common denominator, do it over and over again. And then, and it'll move, it'll change over time, but that's okay. That's what happens. Right.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. So we're kind of at our last few minutes here. So first of all, I want to just give a quick shout out. A couple of places where we can find Corey on Twitter at Corey Haines Co. And he's also, you can find his website, coreyhaines.co. You got a bunch of stuff. Can you just give us a quick rundown on some of the projects that you're working on and what people should check out?
Yeah, probably the two main ones are spyfiles.com. It's a newsletter for SaaS marketing on the front end. And then on the back end, there's a membership, community, courses, live office hours, and access to me. So if you're a SaaS founder or marketer looking for help, I've been there and done that. So I can help you there, at least just give you ideas. There's also a little newsletter called Tiny Marketing Ideas, where it just gives you like 120 some odd, like little bite-sized marketing ideas. And then the latest venture is software, and it's swipewell.app, and basically helps you build a swipe file. Every marketer's greatest asset and most valuable resource, in my opinion. Whether you're a content marketer, copywriter, paid advertiser, everyone should have a swipe file. The current tools to build a swipe file suck, so check out Swipewell. We're rolling out invites to the waitlist, and I would love to have you check it out.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah. Thank you again so much for sharing so much about your journey, and it's been super exciting to dig in and learn from your experience, Corey. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you for having me.
Awesome. One last plug, everyone. Make sure you go find Corey on Twitter, and also if you're not already a member of our community, top of the funnel, yesoptimist.com/tofu. Love to have you there. Awesome, man. Well, thanks again for your time today, and have a great rest of your day.
See you guys.
Cheers.